Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a little shop on Broadway where you, yes you, are about to accidentally kickstart a global luxury empire with nothing but a friend, 1,000 borrowed dollars, and the bold decision to not offer credit. Sounds like a setup for disaster, right? You're 25, fresh-faced, and full of ideas. But honestly, most of those ideas have nothing to do with jewelry yet. You're just trying to make rent. What you do have is a nose for good taste, a partner named John B. Young, and an almost irrational belief that cash-only transactions are the future of shopping. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments. What city are you in, and what time is it for you right now? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push open the doors to Tiffany, Young & Ellis, your brand new shop at 259 Broadway, New York City. The year is 1837. Horse hooves clack on cobblestone, the air smells like smoke and horse sweat, and New Yorkers are hunting for imported knickknacks, porcelain figurines, and fancy European stationery. You're not selling jewelry yet, that comes way later. For now, it's ribbons, glassware, writing tools, and novelties. Think less engagement ring, more gift shop on steroids. But you have one rule: no credit. Everything's cash on the barrelhead. It's bold. In a town where tabbed accounts are how people buy everything, you're forcing customers to fork it over up front. Some walk away. Others, intrigued by your stylish inventory and air of refinement, stick around. And those are the ones who keep your doors open. And yes, people think you're crazy. You probably are. Still, the gamble works. The inventory's curated, not crammed. Everything feels just a little bit elevated, a little bit different. Word spreads. Within a few years, you're drawing in the upper crust of New York society. They want beautiful things, and you give them taste, not just trinkets. You realize pretty quickly that Americans are hungry for something they can't quite name yet, something elegant, European, but still New World aspirational. You decide to give it to them. Around this time, you start importing jewelry and timepieces from Europe. Not cheap costume jewelry either, but serious pieces, intricately made, often from England and France. You're not making your own yet, but you're watching, learning, studying what makes people pause in front of the glass. And behind the scenes, you're becoming obsessed with craftsmanship. You want American luxury to stand toe-to-toe with anything from the old world. There's a business school debate about this first decade. Some argue your real genius wasn't the inventory, but the branding. From the beginning, you weren't just a store. You were crafting an image. Clean displays, elegant script, minimal signage, no clutter, no shouting. You made shopping feel like a rival. It's a weird, nerdy little fact, but you were among the first in New York to wrap packages in tissue and twine in a distinctive way. Customers would hold on to the packaging just as carefully as the purchase itself. No one's calling it unboxing yet, but that's exactly what it is. And you're already thinking ahead. In 1841, John Young leaves the company. You quietly drop the Young & Ellis part and slowly start steering the ship under a single banner, Tiffany & Co. It's a nice ring, right? You don't know it yet, but you've laid the foundation for something way bigger than you. The kind of brand that one day gets name-dropped in Jay-Z songs, dropped on knees during proposals, and even becomes a fashion color in its own right. But right now, you're still sweeping your own floor, adjusting display cases, and hoping the next rich lady who walks in doesn't just want a porcelain bulldog. The shop is small, the margins are tight, and your future is anything but guaranteed. but you're in the game now, and you've just placed your first bet. It's 1845, and you've just done something absolutely nuts, for the time at least. You print a catalog. Not a boring product list, not a flyer, a book with full prices, and that now famous shade of robin's egg blue on the cover. You call it the Tiffany Blue Book, and congratulations, you've just launched America's first mail-order catalog for luxury goods. Your competitors? They're confused. A book for jewelry and fancy imported goods, and you're mailing it to customers? But you don't care, because you've already figured something out. People will fall in love with things they can't touch, if you give them the right fantasy. And that's exactly what you do. The Blue Book is gorgeous, printed on fine stock. Carefully typeset, you've priced everything, which is unheard of in high-end retail at the time. No haggling, no awkward asking. If someone wants to buy a gold bracelet, they know exactly what it costs. It's democratic in a quietly elite kind of way. And yes, it's blue, that soft, powdery, delicious shade that people still argue over, whether it's turquoise or periwinkle. Spoiler, it's officially Pantone 1837 blue now, named after the year you opened your doors. But back then, it's just a pretty color that you slap on the cover because, well, you like it. Customers like it too. A lot. In fact, you start noticing something weird. People keep the boxes, they request extra boxes. Sometimes they buy small items just to get the box. And that's when it hits you. You're not just selling luxury goods anymore. You're selling the experience of owning something that feels rare, refined, and quietly powerful. That little blue box becomes a symbol of something just slightly out of reach for most, until suddenly it's in their hands, tied with white ribbon, and it feels like magic. That magic, you bottle it. By the late 1840s, Tiffany Blue is showing up everywhere. Packaging, signage, wrapping paper. You make it part of the brand long before anyone calls it branding. People don't just remember your products, they remember how they felt when they received them. There's still a weird, nerdy debate in branding circles about whether the Blue Book or the box came first in establishing your identity. Some scholars argue the packaging was secondary to your pricing transparency. Others claim the box alone is worth half your customer loyalty. The truth? You kind of nailed both without even realizing what you were doing. And you're not slowing down. Because this decade, you also pull another smart move. You begin forging relationships with suppliers and artisans in Europe. You're still not designing much in-house, but you're curating with surgical precision. You also start collecting curiosities, like literal crown jewels. In 1848, during the French Revolution, you buy up some of the French aristocracy's cast-off gems, including pieces rumored to come from the actual Bourbon treasury. That part? Still disputed, but it makes one hell of a story for the sales team. And you make sure people know it. Newspapers start calling you the Palace of Jewels. You don't correct them. Meanwhile, other jewelers are still playing the old school game, low signage, quiet reputation, word-of-mouth clientele. You're on the street corner handing out catalogs and telling people exactly what your diamonds cost. And here's the kicker, your customers love you for it. There's this mix of refinement and accessibility that nobody else is really doing yet. You're not trying to be intimidating, you're trying to be irresistible. Even if someone can't afford the $500 necklace, they flip through the Blue Book, sigh dramatically, and dream. You become aspirational, not just for the wealthy, but for the almost wealthy, the hopeful, the future collectors. And you ride that wave all the way to the next decade. You've got your branding nailed, your packaging is iconic, and your customer experience, light years ahead of its time. The thing no one realizes yet is this: you're not just building a company, you're building a feeling. And feelings? They last way longer than diamonds. You're standing in your workshop in 1851, sleeves rolled up, silver dust on your hands, and an idea in your head that everyone tells you is too European. You're about to make a bold move that literally redefines American luxury. Up to this point, the US doesn't really have an official silver standard. Everyone's kind of winging it. Some silver is 80% pure, some 90%, some... well, let's not talk about it. But in Britain, sterling silver has a precise, respected benchmark: 92.5% purity, stamped and certified. So you make a decision, you declare, loudly, proudly, and a bit stubbornly, that Tiffany & Company will only sell silver that meets the British sterling standard. No shortcuts, no compromises. This means turning down a lot of cheaper supplies, raising prices, and probably annoying a few regular customers. But hey, if you're going to be the standard bearer of American luxury, you can't be known for cutting corners, can you? And guess what? That bet pays off. People notice the difference. Suddenly, your silverware isn't just decorative, it's a statement. It feels heavier in the hand, it lasts longer, and it gleams in a way that makes everything else look like costume jewelry in bad lighting. You start crafting full silver services, pitchers, tea sets, flatware, that look like they belong in European palaces. Except they're made in New York. By you. And here's the fun part. The US government doesn't formally adopt a sterling standard until 1906. That's over half a century after you've already established it as your personal minimum. So technically you're ahead of the government. Nice flex. Business historians still argue over whether you were chasing British approval or trying to plant a flag for American craftsmanship. But whatever the reason, your move sets a new benchmark. Suddenly, other American silver makers are scrambling to catch up. You've made sterling silver cool. And yes, you even start stamping your silver with 925 purity marks and your name, Tiffany & Company, because subtlety is nice, but legacy is better. Customers now trust that anything you sell is the best version of itself. You're not just building brand recognition, you're building credibility. You also start attracting the attention of America's elite, not just upper middle class daydreamers anymore. We're talking presidents, foreign dignitaries, railroad tycoons, and barons of industry. When they need a silver baby rattle, a retirement gift, or a wedding set, they call you. And yes, there are plenty of skeptics who think it's all a bit much. After all, you're selling forks for the price of furniture. There are still polite dinner arguments in some marketing courses about whether what you did was value innovation or just really smart positioning. But come on, these forks sparkle. Behind closed doors, you're starting to dream bigger. This silver standard move isn't just about flatware. It's about claiming authority in American luxury. You're not content being a reseller anymore. You want to create, so you start investing in in-house design. You recruit local metalworkers, engravers, and craftsmen who can match the precision you're demanding. The energy in the workshop shifts. It's not just about commerce anymore, it's about craftsmanship. And that changes everything. You're setting yourself up to move from curator to creator. And in doing so, you're quietly, steadily turning Tiffany & Company into a name that doesn't just represent wealth, it defines taste. It's the early 1860s, and New York's energy is shifting. The polished parlors and pristine shop fronts are still standing, but the country is splitting at the seams. Civil war is no longer just a whispered possibility, it's happening. And you, the purveyor of elegant silverware and European clocks, are about to become a wartime supplier. Yep, that's right. You, the fancy goods shop owner, are about to start making swords. Strange pivot? Sure. But here's how it happens. As Union troops mobilize, the government needs supplies, and not just rations and uniforms. They want officers properly outfitted with presentation sabers, ceremonial swords, and dress accessories. These aren't battlefield tools as much as symbols of command, honor, and morale. They're tradition, dignity, and intimidation, all wrapped into one blade. And you already have a reputation for quality metalwork. People know your silver doesn't bend, your engraving doesn't fade. So when the Union Army goes looking for someone who can make military accoutrements that look like they belong on a general, guess whose name comes up? Tiffany & Co. You take the contract, you convert part of your workshop, bring in new craftsmen, and start studying 18th century blade design like your life depends on it. Which, in a way, it kind of does. Within months, you're producing sabers, swords, and officer insignia. Not mass-produced, mind you. These are works of art, etched, engraved, balanced, and polished by hand. You stamp them with your name and ship them off to war. And just like that, you go from jeweler to arms maker. Now, here's where it gets wild. Some of those swords survive. They're sitting in museums today, often with Tiffany & Co. still clearly engraved near the hilt. Collectors drool over them. Historians whisper about the strange poetry of a luxury brand creating tools of war. It's like if Chanel suddenly started manufacturing drones. And yet, this moment is key to your evolution. Because in wartime, you're not selling to dreamers or society ladies. You're supplying leaders, people making life or death decisions. That puts a different kind of weight on your brand. You're not just the silver guy anymore. You're a trusted maker in a nation on fire. And here's the unexpected twist. This makes your peacetime luxury even more desirable. Because after the war ends, veterans and generals, those very same clients, don't forget you. When they retire, when they marry off daughters, when they host banquets and award ceremonies, guess who they call? Yeah, you. Some business scholars argue this period is when Tiffany truly becomes a national name, not just a New York institution. Others say it was just a smart wartime PR move. But one thing's certain, this moment proves you're adaptable as hell. And it doesn't stop at swords. You also start producing medals of honor, ceremonial presentation items, even regimental silverware. You engrave names, battles, inscriptions. You're writing the history of the war in sterling silver. It's strange, poetic, even a little haunting. Your products aren't just things people own anymore. They become things people remember with. Symbols of survival, pride, and mourning. Soldiers return home and pass down their Tiffany sword like it's a family relic. Which, for many, it becomes. This creates a long-lasting emotional bond that even your competitors can't replicate. And while all this is happening, you're learning something else: how to scale. Because war is chaos, production schedules fluctuate, supply chains break, labor is inconsistent, and yet you deliver, on time, with quality intact. That ability to operate under pressure, pivot with elegance, and still maintain brand mystique sticks with you for good. By the time the war ends in 1865, your company looks nothing like it did in 1837. You've got dozens more artisans, a reputation that spans coast to coast, and, perhaps most importantly, the trust of the American public. Because when things got rough, you didn't vanish behind a velvet curtain. You showed up, you adapted, and you made things that mattered. You also now own a factory, a full-blown production facility where you can control quality from raw materials to finished pieces. No more relying on European imports or third-party manufacturers. You're building an empire on American soil, and every sword you forged helped pave the way. This chapter of your story, it doesn't usually get the spotlight. When people think Tiffany, they picture sparkly rings and Audrey Hepburn, not cavalry sabers and bayonet clasps. But this is the stuff that hardened your reputation. This is where Tiffany and Cody stops being just pretty and becomes respected. In fact, some historians argue this chapter is what prepared you for what's coming next, a much, much larger stage. Because soon, you're not just going to impress America, you're going to take on Europe on their own turf. The year is 1867. You are adjusting your cravat in the mirror of a steamship cabin as the Atlantic rocks beneath your feet, and you're thinking something that no other American jeweler has ever dared to believe quite this boldly. You're going to Paris, and you're going to win. This is not a vacation. This is not a sourcing trip. This is the Exposition Universelle, the World's Fair of 1867, a global showcase of the finest innovations, artistry, and craftsmanship from every corner of the civilized world. It's where kings, sultans, czars, and sheikhs gather to gawk at each other's toys. And you? You're about to walk straight into the lion's den with silver flatware and jewelry stamped Tiffany and Cody, made in the good old United States. Now, keep in mind, this is a time when American craftsmanship is still considered, well, let's call it rustic. European critics don't exactly see the US as a style powerhouse. To them, you're the land of log cabins and buckskin trousers, not gilt filigree and rococo serving trays. But that's exactly what makes this such a bold move. You pack up your finest silver, meticulously crafted pitchers, presentation cups, tea sets so beautiful they could make a duchess cry, and you sail to Paris, determined to prove that American artisanship doesn't just belong at the table. It is the tub, and you pull it off. You don't just show up, you win. That's right. Tiffany & Co. becomes the first American firm to win an award for excellence in silverware at a world exposition. The Europeans are stunned. Who are these upstarts from across the ocean crafting silver like it was plucked from Versailles? The judges award you the grand prize for silver craftsmanship. Your competitors blink. Some scoff, some nod, slowly, acknowledging that something has just shifted. You quietly collect your medal, write home to your staff, and then do something even more strategic. You frame the medal and hang it in your New York showroom like a badge of honor, because you understand something crucial. This isn't just about impressing Paris, it's about legitimizing American luxury in the eyes of the world. Back in New York, the response is electric. Newspaper headlines gush about your win. American clients who once bought your silver because it was nice now see it as world-class. You go from being an elite domestic brand to a global contender practically overnight. And that's not just ego talking. That's market expansion. Because now European collectors want in. Your blue book finds its way into foreign libraries. Londoners begin placing special orders. Wealthy Parisians, intrigued by the foreign medal winner, write letters asking for commissions. Tiffany & Co. becomes an exporter of American prestige. You didn't just open the door, you kicked it off the hinges. The Paris win also becomes a turning point inside your company. Up until now, you've mostly drawn design inspiration from abroad. But the award lights a fire under your in-house artisans. Suddenly, they don't want to imitate Europe. They want to rival it. Better yet, they want to invent something uniquely American. You invest more in design, more in training, more in experimentation. You start blending classical European motifs with bold, streamlined American aesthetics. You strip off some of the fluff and frills of French Rococo and create pieces that feel cleaner, fresher, less aristocratic, more visionary. Some design critics today call this the beginning of the Tiffany style. Not borrowed, not inherited, but defined. A look that's elegant without being ornate, prestigious without being pompous. And if that weren't enough, the Paris Exposition also boosts your influence with American institutions. You start getting government commissions, like the redesign of the Great Seal of the United States, which you deliver with sharp lines, balanced proportions, and your signature elegance. The US Navy even commissions ceremonial swords, Congressmen visit your showroom not just to buy cufflinks, but to consult. Meanwhile, other American jewelers are trying to catch up. They start marketing their own award-winning pieces. Some even copy your catalog format. A few even try to mimic that Tiffany blue, which makes you roll your eyes in amusement. But it doesn't matter because the public knows who set the standard. Here's a fun, strange detail. During this time, Tiffany starts getting called the jeweler to the Gilded Age, and it fits. As America slides into a period of rapid industrial expansion, railroad barons, oil magnates, and newly minted millionaires rush to furnish their mansions with objects that signal they've arrived. You're the go-to source. Need a $5,000 silver tea set for a Fifth Avenue salon? Done. Need a diamond necklace to match the bustled silk gown your wife imported from Paris? Already in stock. Tiffany becomes shorthand for good taste among the rich, but more importantly, it becomes a cultural aspiration for everyone else. The blue book circulates, the name spreads, and back at the center of it all is you, the person who walked into a Paris exhibition full of skeptical monarchists and showed them exactly what American luxury looks like. There's a bit of debate among modern scholars about whether that 1867 award really changed the trajectory of Tiffany & Co., or whether it just confirmed what was already happening. But most agree on this. After Paris, no one could treat you like a provincial boutique again. You weren't just respected, you were international. You're in your office, sunlight bouncing off a mountain of loose gemstones scattered across velvet trays, and your eye keeps coming back to one that's not like the others. It's 1878, and you've just acquired something from the Kimberley diamond mines of South Africa, a place that's become synonymous with both glittering wealth and the darker geopolitics of colonial extraction. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. What matters right now is this. In your hands is a 287.42 carat rough yellow diamond. And it's mesmerizing. Not just large, record-breaking, not just colorful, vivid, almost supernatural in tone. It glows with this warm, lemony fire that makes colorless diamonds look like frozen water by comparison. Most jewelers wouldn't even touch a stone like this. Too risky, too bold, too much to lose if the cut goes wrong. But you're not most jewelers. You send it to Paris, to one of the finest cutters in the world, with the instruction, do not chase size, chase beauty, cut it for brilliance, cut it to unlock its soul. The result? A 128.54 carat cushion-cut yellow diamond with 82 facets, 24 more than the traditional 58, to maximize light return, like sunshine trapped in a gem. You don't just cut a diamond, you create a legend. And with that, the Tiffany diamond is born. Now here's the kicker. You don't sell it, ever. That's right. You spend a fortune acquiring and cutting one of the largest yellow diamonds on Earth, and then you simply keep it, display it, protect it, build myth around it. Why? Because you understand something few businessmen in your time do. Not everything valuable is for sale. Some things exist to symbolize power, taste, dominance. Owning the Tiffany diamond is like owning the moon. No one can touch it, but everyone looks up to it. That decision alone makes marketing professors nod with admiration to this day. Don't monetize the myth, they say. Just let it glow. And glow it does. You showcase it in velvet display cases, under gaslight, then electric light. You send it to exhibitions. Crowds gather, mouths hanging open. Even other jewelers stop and stare. Some don't believe it's real. Others ask what your price is. You smile and tell them, it's not for sale. In an era obsessed with wealth display, you've flipped the narrative. You're not flaunting value, You're building aura. People begin to associate Tiffany with this kind of daring. Not just pretty rings, but once-in-a-lifetime masterpieces. And here's where the story gets even more surreal. You start using the Tiffany diamond as a silent brand ambassador. It's in your window, and it says everything without saying a word. It whispers, "We deal in the rare. We understand elegance. If this is our display, imagine what we can do for you." By the 20th century, the diamond will be worn by only 4 women, including Audrey Hepburn in 1961 for the Breakfast at Tiffany's press photos, and Lady Gaga at the 2019 Oscars. That's right. More people have walked on the moon than have worn this diamond. To this day, it remains one of the most famous unset diamonds in the world. And for your business, it becomes a magnet. Clients don't just come to your store to buy, they come to see. Visiting the Tiffany diamond becomes a pilgrimage, an American equivalent of staring at the crown jewels in the Tower of London. But you're not content with just the diamond. This era becomes the start of your love affair with colored gemstones. Until now, diamonds ruled the jewelry scene, but you pushed the envelope: sapphires, emeralds, rubies. You even popularized rare stones like kunzite and morganite, named after the geologists and financiers you work with. And yes, Tiffany & Co. is often the first to bring these stones to American buyers. You're not just selling sparkle, you're selling discovery. There's still some scholarly argument about whether you popularized yellow diamonds or simply lucked into a mine-rich moment in history. But most agree on this: by boldly acquiring, cutting, and preserving the Tiffany diamond, you create a halo effect that makes everything else you touch shine brighter by association. And while all of this is dazzling, you remain weirdly practical behind the scenes. You invest in gemology, you hire mineralogists, you create strict sourcing standards. By the 1880s, when most jewelers are just guessing about clarity and color, you're already laying the groundwork for the grading systems that will one day dominate the industry. It's that blend of spectacle and science that sets you apart. And your customers, they trust you because of it. They know that whether they're buying a $50 necklace or a $5,000 brooch, it's backed by the same standards as the Tiffany diamond. By the end of this chapter, you've done something extraordinary. You've taken a single gemstone and transformed it into a cultural artifact, a conversation piece, and a brand pillar all at once. You didn't just change what people think about colored diamonds. You changed what they think about Tiffany & Co. It's 1886, and your fingers hover over a sketch. 6 lines, precisely drawn, like beams reaching up from a mountaintop. What you're designing isn't just a ring setting. You're rewriting the way the world gets engaged. Let's back up. Up until now, engagement rings are usually elaborate, Victorian affairs, diamonds surrounded by other gems, buried in heavy metalwork, low to the finger, like the diamond is peeking out from a fortress. They're ornate, sure, but let's be honest, they don't exactly sparkle. The stone barely catches light. The metal does all the talking. You keep thinking, what if we flipped the script? What if the ring wasn't about the band at all, but the diamond itself? So you get to work. You strip away everything that doesn't need to be there, and you create something revolutionary: a simple, slender platinum band, and 6 delicate prongs that hold the diamond high above the finger, lifting it up almost like it's floating. The prongs are so fine they practically disappear, but they're strong and secure. They do something that no one expects. They let light flood in from every angle. Suddenly, the diamond isn't just a rock. It's a beacon. You name it the Tiffany setting, and you introduce it to the public like you've just invented the telescope, which, honestly, in the world of jewelry, you kind of have. From the moment it hits your display cases, customers go wild. They've never seen a diamond look like that before. So clear, so open, so alive. You explain the brilliance isn't just in the cut, but in the lift. It's architecture on a micro scale, a marriage of engineering and emotion. And here's the thing. While it seems elegantly simple, the Tiffany setting is incredibly hard to execute well. The 6 prongs must be perfectly aligned. The diamond must be level. The band must be just thick enough to support it without drawing attention to itself. You train your craftsmen meticulously. No shortcuts, no mass production. You make each one like it's the only one, and it becomes iconic. Now, you may not have invented prong settings entirely. Jewelry historians still argue about that. But there's no debate about who perfected it. The Tiffany setting becomes the blueprint for modern engagement rings. Soon, you're not just selling rings, you're selling ritual. A man walks into your store and buys a Tiffany setting. That's not a purchase, that's a promise, a declaration, a legacy. He's not just proposing to someone, he's saying, I've chosen the very best for the very best person. Your name becomes synonymous with engagement itself. People don't say, I bought a ring. They say, I bought a Tiffany. And as couples begin celebrating their engagements publicly, posing for photos, hosting parties, telling their proposal stories, the ring takes center stage. Friends ask, can I see it? And the diamond, sitting high in its setting, practically beams with pride. It's a moment built for sparkle. And you're the one who made that possible. Soon, demand explodes. You scale carefully, refuse to cut corners. You even begin sourcing diamonds directly and set standards for cut, clarity, and ethics decades before the industry catches up. You insist on quality in everything, not just the stone, but the entire experience, from the velvet ring box to the ribbon to the service at the counter. It's the whole proposal that you've curated, not just the gem. And you start noticing something else. Your clients talk about their Tiffany setting like it's alive. It becomes an heirloom before it's even a year old. Daughters dream of receiving one. Mothers polish theirs like relics. Men, some of whom once thought jewelry was silly, become devotees. They write to you. They bring in their sons. They treat their first Tiffany purchase like a rite of passage. That's no accident. You've built this setting on emotion as much as engineering. You understood that jewelry isn't about luxury, it's about meaning. And nowhere is that more true than an engagement. Now here's a strange side note. Competitors start copying you almost immediately. Some even try to name their settings Tiffany style, which, yes, leads to a few legal headaches, and the courts eventually step in, clarifying that unless it's made by Tiffany & Co., then it's not a Tiffany setting. But the fact that others are copying you, it's the ultimate compliment. And here's a juicy tidbit for your future biographers. Over a century later, marketing professors still dissect the Tiffany setting as one of the most successful product designs in retail history. Some argue it was timing. You introduced it just as romantic love was replacing arranged marriages in the Western world. Others say it was branding. The name Tiffany already carried so much cultural cachet that the setting became a natural extension. But those in the know, they point to the design itself. Because in the end, you didn't just change how rings look. You changed how people see love. You lifted it, you spotlighted it, you turned it into a visible, wearable beacon. And long after your era passes, long after the gas lights dim and the steamships vanish, that little 6-pronged silhouette will still be here, on hands, in photos, in velvet boxes tucked away in sock drawers, whispering the same quiet promise: forever starts here. It's the turn of a new century, and you've just made a decision that surprises even your closest confidants. You hand over the reins, not to a business tycoon, not to a board of directors, but to your son, not just any son. Louis Comfort Tiffany. Now, if you've been running a company built on silver spoons and precision cut diamonds, this next chapter may feel like jumping off a cliff with a stained glass parachute. Because Louis? He's not here to follow in your footsteps. He's here to explode them in color. Louis Comfort Tiffany isn't just your heir. He's a full-blown artist, a pioneer of the Art Nouveau movement, a man who sees color where others see metal, who hears melody in the bend of a lampshade, who dreams in molten glass. And now, as Tiffany & Co.'s first official design director, he's going to change everything. And you, well, technically you're retired. But let's be honest, you're watching this unfold like someone who handed the keys to their classic car over to a teenager with spray paint. Still, there's a brilliance to this. Louis sees Tiffany not just as a jeweler, but as a design house. He wants to shift the perception of what luxury is, not just sparkle and shine, but craftsmanship that tells stories, that invites wonder. So he brings in his world: stained glass windows, enameled iris brooches, dragonfly hairpins, gold bracelets shaped like wisteria vines. He works in glass, bronze, opal, and precious metals, all fused together in ways that feel almost alien to the stiff Victorian aesthetic still lingering in high society. Your customers blink. Some of them gasp. Is this still Tiffany? Oh, yes. And it's Tiffany with teeth. Louis' aesthetic isn't dainty or fussy. It's organic, flowing, emotional. Where you built the brand on classical formality and rigid standards, he's channeling nature. He's sculpting movement. His pieces look like they were grown, not manufactured. His signature technique, Favril glass, earns praise from both American collectors and European critics. It's iridescent, shifting color as light passes over it, never quite the same shade twice. It's like holding a dragonfly's wing in your hand. One of his most famous innovations, the Tiffany lamp. Yes, that Tiffany lamp. With its bronze base and mosaic stained glass shade, each one a little different. Louis doesn't just create a light fixture, he creates an icon, an object that lands not just in salons and galleries, but in dorm rooms and dormer windows for the next century. Go ahead, check your aunt's living room. Odds are there's a Tiffany-style lamp glowing warmly on a table. But this era isn't just about aesthetics, it's about positioning. Under Louis, Tiffany & Company expands its reach into decorative arts and interior design. He takes commissions from magnates, aristocrats, even religious institutions. He designs chapels, windows, banquet halls. The brand goes from personal adornment to environmental luxury. In a sense, Louis Comfort Tiffany is doing what modern design directors at fashion houses now do, redefining the entire aesthetic atmosphere of a brand. And it pays off. The Exposition Universelle in Paris, 1900. Tiffany's booth is glowing, literally. Louis' designs win awards, draw crowds, inspire breathless write-ups in international newspapers. You're not just competing with Cartier and Boucheron anymore. You're doing something no other jeweler is doing. You're creating art. And that comes with trade-offs, because not everyone gets it. Some longtime clients are confused by this sudden rush of organic chaos. They miss the clean lines, the diamond discipline. They whisper that Tiffany's gotten too artsy, too unpredictable. Others are absolutely entranced, declaring that Louis Comfort Tiffany is America's answer to René Lalique. And here's the fun twist. Modern scholars still argue over Louis's reign. Some call it the golden age of Tiffany's artistic credibility. Others say it distracted from the company's commercial strengths, but most agree it was bold, authentic, and impossible to ignore. Back inside the company, things are both vibrant and chaotic. Artistic innovation is hard to scale, and some of Louis' most ambitious ideas, custom installations, one-of-a-kind commissions, don't exactly translate into mass market success. But he doesn't care. He's not interested in market share. He's chasing the sublime. And whether or not you agree with every decision, you have to admire the fire. Because in this moment, Tiffany & Co. isn't just a luxury brand. It's a cultural force, a bridge between jewelry, fine art, architecture, and design. A name not just written in ledgers, but carved into stained glass, etched in bronze, painted in light. And Louis? He's not just your son. He's an artist who turned your brand into a canvas. His chapter is one of emotion, of beauty for beauty's sake. And even though his aesthetic won't define Tiffany's commercial path forever, his influence echoes in every design-forward decision the brand makes after him. Anytime Tiffany leans into whimsy, anytime a designer decides to blur the line between wearability and wonder, anytime someone says, "Wait, jewelry can do that?" That's Louis Comfort Tiffany, whispering from the archives. He didn't just carry your legacy forward. He gave it wings made of glass. The 1920s arrive not with a whimper, but with a cocktail shaker and a jazz saxophone. And you're right in the middle of it. Top hat slightly tilted, cigarette holder in hand, probably not lit, you're more of a prop person, surrounded by flapper clients and bootlegger patrons, all of them obsessed with one thing: glamour. Welcome to the Art Deco era, baby. Tiffany & Co. is stepping into its most visually daring chapter yet, and you're at the helm, watching the world shed its Victorian corsets and lace in favor of geometry, chrome, and cocktail rings the size of small spacecraft. This isn't your father's luxury. This is modernity on parade. The Roaring '20s are changing everything. Cars are faster, hemlines are shorter, women have bobbed hair and voting rights, and in the heart of Manhattan, your showroom is gleaming with platinum, enamel, and diamonds cut so precisely they look like tiny sunbursts. You've embraced Art Deco like it was made just for you. It's bold, geometric, a little cold, but undeniably chic. You start producing everything from compact cases to cigarette holders, vanity boxes, and lighters, all in precious materials, all with clean lines and sharp angles. Your design team? Absolutely thriving. They take inspiration from everywhere: Egyptian tombs, Aztec carvings, machine parts, New York skyscrapers. It's cultural cross-pollination meets luxury marketing, and you make it look effortless. Customers walk in asking for that new Tiffany Deco look, and your clerks just smile and guide them to the good stuff. One of your best-selling innovations in this decade? The cocktail ring. Big, loud, unapologetic. Meant to be seen from across the room, or, ideally, across the dance floor at the St. Regis. The cocktail ring becomes a symbol of independence, wealth, and rebellion. Women aren't waiting to get engaged anymore. They're buying jewelry for themselves. Gasp. And who do they trust with their self-expression? You, of course. Your pieces start appearing in the glossiest fashion magazines. You're part of the look, the lifestyle, the statement. Owning a Tiffany Deco bracelet isn't just a flex. It's proof you've arrived. And for a while, it feels like the good times will never end. You host parties, you open exhibitions, you sponsor charity galas with diamond-studded raffle prizes, you polish and posture and pose. You are, without exaggeration, one of the shining stars of jazz-age New York. Then comes 1929. Black Tuesday hits like a brick through a Tiffany window. The stock market crashes. Fortunes evaporate. Clients stop calling, not because that they've stopped loving your work, but because they can't justify a $3,000 sapphire vanity case when their bank just foreclosed on their apartment. And now, You're not hosting cocktail parties. You're in survival mode. The Great Depression hits every industry, but luxury retail takes a particularly cruel beating. For the first time in decades, Tiffany has to reckon with a sobering question. How do you sell elegance when the world is on fire? You scale back, quietly, you furlough staff, you reduce production. But here's the thing, you never close. Not for a single day. You keep the lights on at the Fifth Avenue store. You keep a skeleton team at the design studio. You keep showing up. And your most loyal customers? They notice. They may not be buying 5-carat cocktail rings right now, but they're watching. They see that you haven't vanished. You haven't abandoned the principles of beauty and excellence. If anything, your commitment seems to grow deeper. The press notices too. You start receiving praise for maintaining your craftsmanship during hard times, as if dignity itself were for sale alongside your platinum cigarette cases. And it pays off, slowly. By the mid-1930s, as the economy begins to show the faintest signs of recovery, you're already poised to bounce back. Why? Because you didn't pivot to selling discount jewelry. You didn't slap your name on tin trinkets to stay alive. You preserve the aura of Tiffany, and when wealth begins creeping back into society's bloodstream, your customers return. Carefully, slowly, but with a reverence that wasn't there before. You've survived a war, a revolution, and now a global financial collapse. And somehow you're still standing. Polished shoes, straight tie, and a new line of Art Deco pieces that quietly shift into more restrained elegance as the era draws to a close. Now here's where the academics love to jump in. Some say your ability to weather the depression was due to strong cash flow and deep brand equity. Others argue it was sheer stubbornness. Your refusal to go down market preserved your high-end appeal. There's even a long-standing debate at one Ivy League business school about whether Tiffany's Depression-era decisions qualify as crisis branding or just plain old good taste. Either way, you come out of the 1930s a little bruised, but not broken. You've proven something rare in luxury: resilience. Because you're not just a brand that sparkles when times are good. You're a brand that endures, that keeps its cool when the stock market doesn't, that keeps designing beauty when the world seems ugly. And that, my friend, is priceless. It's 1940, and you're about to move house. But this isn't just any house. It's a 10-story granite temple on Fifth Avenue, right at 57th Street, facing the rising tide of Midtown Manhattan's glitz and glory. And you're not moving in quietly. You're about to make Tiffany & Company the glittering crown jewel of New York's new skyline. Let's set the scene. The country is crawling out from under the Great Depression, with one cautious eye already watching the storm clouds of war gathering over Europe. But in the heart of Manhattan, something entirely different is happening. You're planting your flag. For over 80 years, Tiffany's had moved from location to location, Broadway, Union Square, up to 38th Street, but now, you're staking permanent claim to what will become one of the most iconic luxury retail locations in the world. 727 Fifth Avenue. The building? Sleek, modern, and dignified. No gilded columns or fussy ornamentation. It's Art Deco grown up. Clean lines, neutral tones, built to impress without screaming. And over the entrance, a 9-foot statue of Atlas, stoically holding up a clock. That's right. You literally mount time on your building. Because Tiffany isn't just selling jewelry anymore. You're selling eternity. But this move is more than architectural ambition. It's strategic genius. Fifth Avenue is on the rise. Midtown is buzzing. Rockefeller Center is just blocks away. And by opening your flagship here, you don't just follow the flow, you become the current. Inside, the store is equally revolutionary. You install vast plate glass display cases, high ceilings, wide aisles. It's the opposite of the cramped, dark jewelry shops people were used to. Instead of leaning over a counter to squint at rings, customers are invited to glide through spacious salons, softly lit and whisper quiet. You give them room to dream, and crucially, you don't lock everything up behind thick glass. That may not sound like much now, but at the time, it's a radical statement of trust and transparency. You're saying, come closer, take your time. This world belongs to you too. Your design team, still riding the wave of Art Deco brilliance, shifts slightly. Less Gatsby glitz, more subtle geometry. Platinum is still in, but yellow gold makes a reappearance. Colored stones, rubies, sapphires, emeralds become centerpieces, not just accents. You also begin expanding your product lines in smart, understated ways. Home goods, crystal, sterling silver frames, and letter openers. You position Tiffany not just as a jeweler, but as a lifestyle. One built on the quiet confidence of old money, but accessible enough to make new money feel instantly established. And just when you're getting comfortable, history kicks the door down. In December 1941, the US enters World War II. And once again, just like in the Civil War, Tiffany answers the call. You temporarily halt some jewelry production to focus on military needs: compasses, precision instruments, Navy chronometers. You even design awards and commemorative medals. Because yes, Tiffany makes medals too. You're not just adorning wrists, you're honoring heroes. And back home, the Fifth Avenue flagship becomes a kind of sanctuary. Soldiers on leave visit to buy engagement rings for sweethearts waiting back home. Newlyweds purchase modest silver items as hopeful totems of the life they were building, even as headlines scream about bombings overseas. You become, in some quiet way, a symbol of stability, of permanence. When everything else is uncertain, Tiffany remains. The brand doesn't vanish into wartime gloom. It adapts without diluting. You stay elegant, you stay open, and the building on Fifth Avenue stands there, granite and glass, like it's been waiting for this very moment to prove itself. It's around this time that Tiffany becomes something even more than a luxury brand. It becomes a landmark. Tourists include you in their New York itinerary. Soldiers returning from war bring their wives to see where the ring came from. Department stores try to copy your interior design. Competitors grumble, but deep down, they know you've won the prestige war. And of course, there are critics. There are always critics. Some say you've become too elitist, too polished, that you've lost touch with your roots as a practical silversmith for the new American aristocracy. But you know better. You're not excluding anyone. You're inviting them into a story, a myth, a mood, one where elegance is timeless and love is worth spending a little extra on. By the late 1940s, the war is over. The GIs return home. Suburbs begin to sprawl. And America enters a golden era of consumption. You're perfectly positioned. Engagements boom. Wedding gifts fly off the shelves. Crystal decanters, sterling baby spoons, monogrammed cigarette cases. The Tiffany gift becomes shorthand for thoughtfulness with taste. Business professors still cite your post-war strategy as a masterclass in resilience through brand consistency. You didn't change course when things got tough. You doubled down on meaning. And when the clouds cleared, you emerged not just intact, but stronger. And that building, still there, still magnificent, still holding up the clock, patient, dignified, and waiting for the next chapter. Because for Tiffany, Fifth Avenue isn't just a location, it's a promise that in a world that's constantly shifting, there's a place where elegance, craftsmanship, and quiet power are not just preserved, but celebrated. It's early morning in 1961, and if you knew what was about to happen outside your Fifth Avenue flagship, You might have brewed a stronger cup of coffee. A taxi pulls up. A woman steps out. She's wearing a black Givenchy dress, opera gloves, sunglasses so big they could hide a secret identity. She walks up to the storefront, your storefront, paper coffee cup in one hand, a pastry bag in the other. She stops. She gazes through the window at a display of diamonds shimmering like stardust. She bites into her croissant, leans a little closer, and just like that, history is made. You don't know it yet, but this will be the most iconic scene in the fashion film history. Audrey Hepburn, starring in Breakfast at Tiffany's, is about to turn your store, not your products, not your ads, but the physical presence of your building, into a cultural monument. Let's rewind for a second. You've survived wars, depressions, and a few difficult decades of design flux. But this moment, it's pure alchemy. The film adaptation of Truman Capote's novella isn't just a success. It becomes a movement, a visual love letter to New York and to Tiffany. And you become something more than a luxury brand. You become a dream. Now, here's what's genius. You didn't even ask for this. You didn't commission the movie. You didn't hire Audrey. But you said yes when the filmmakers came knocking. You allowed camera crews inside your Fifth Avenue store, a rare and risky move at the time, and gave them a few after-hours windows to shoot. And boy, did it pay off. Almost overnight, you're in the global spotlight. Tourists begin flocking to your storefront, mimicking Holly Golightly, pastry in hand, nose to the glass. They don't even go in. Just standing outside feels like enough. Like a whisper of glamour could rub off on them if they loiter long enough near those vitrines. This is the moment Tiffany becomes not just a place to shop, but a place to imagine. Young women clip stills of the movie and tape them to their mirrors. Teenage girls scrawl, "Someday I'll go to Tiffany's," in the margins of their journals. The Tiffany window becomes shorthand for elegance, independence, and a certain wistful kind of longing. And it's not just women. Men watch the film too, trying to figure out why the woman they're dating suddenly wants a breakfast ring. Spoiler, she doesn't actually want eggs. She wants a small blue box. The irony is delicious. Holly Golightly never even goes inside the store in that first scene. She can't afford anything. But that's the point. Tiffany represents something just out of reach, yet warm, inviting, full of potential. It's the luxury of hope. Academics today still debate what Breakfast at Tiffany's really did for your brand. Some say it redefined you. Others say it only amplified what was already there. But all agree, no film before or since has ever fused a retail brand so seamlessly into a romantic ideal. And here's where you prove you're savvy. You don't try to cash in with gimmicky promos. You don't slap Audrey's face on every window. You do what you've always done. Maintain your quiet cool. Elegant, unbothered. Let the magic speak for itself. But behind the scenes, oh, you absolutely ride the wave. Sales spike. Engagement ring inquiries climb. Foot traffic increases, and your name, already prestigious, now has pop cultural gravity. In the years that follow, you lean into that cultural relevance. You release new ad campaigns with a slightly more romantic tone. You begin offering more accessible price points, not to cheapen the brand, but to welcome aspirational buyers into the fold. After all, if Holly Golightly can fantasize about owning a Tiffany piece, why shouldn't the girl in St. Louis or the one in Sao Paulo? You start becoming a destination not just for the ultra-wealthy, but for the dreamers. The newly engaged, the just got a promotion crowd, the moms buying their daughters a first piece of real jewelry, and yes, some of them start showing up with croissants. The Tiffany window transforms into something spiritual. It's no longer just a display case. It's a projection screen for millions of hopes. People don't always remember what exact jewelry was in the window that day in the film, but they remember the feeling of possibility. You bottle that feeling and let it glow quietly in everything you do. And the timing couldn't be better. The 1960s roar on with social change, space races, and youth movements. Through it all, Tiffany maintains a sort of calm, classical center. You're not chasing trends, you're not pandering to fads, but you're not ignoring them either. You begin quietly evolving, bringing in fresh designers, experimenting with cleaner lines, pushing into modernism without losing the Tiffany soul. And by staying true to your tone, your pace, your confidence, you manage something few brands ever achieve: relevance without reinvention. There are still critics, of course. Some say you're leaning too heavily on the movie's legacy. Others claim you've become a tourist attraction, a selfie spot. And while there's some truth to that, does it matter? Because people aren't just taking selfies. They're making memories, and they're associating those memories with you. When people talk about their favorite moments in New York, they don't say, "I went to a jewelry store." They say, "I went to Tiffany's." You've transcended category. You're not just jewelry, you're romance, cinematic edition. And somewhere in the back of your flagship store, someone still remembers the day that girl in the black dress showed up at dawn and changed everything, just by looking through out the window. It's 1979, and you're sitting across the table from a cosmetics tycoon with a perfectly polished manicure and a balance sheet that looks like it could fund a moon landing. This is the man who built Avon, the house-call cosmetics empire known for selling lipstick door to door. And now he wants you. Not for a date, for a deal. And you, yes, you, protector of fine jewels and Fifth Avenue elegance, are about to enter one of the strangest chapters in your brand's long, sparkling history, the Avon era. Now, before you faint into your sterling silver teacup, let's unpack this. By the late 1970s, Tiffany & Company is, let's just say, drifting. Sales are sluggish. The younger generation doesn't quite get you. The brand still sparkles, sure, but the shine is starting to feel a little dusty. You're trapped somewhere between the moon landing and disco fever, trying to figure out if people still care about silver baby spoons and $10,000 brooches. Enter Charles Revson and the team at Avon Products Inc. Their pitch is simple: buy Tiffany, fold it into Avon's rapidly diversifying empire, and give it the capital and consumer insight it needs to modernize. The logic? You're both aspirational brands. Tiffany sells dreams in blue boxes. Avon sells dreams in pink tubes. Together, you can conquer both the vanity and the velvet box. It's not the worst idea on paper. So the deal goes through. And just like that, Tiffany becomes a subsidiary of Avon. You're a jewelry house now backed by a beauty empire. The Fifth Avenue showroom still sparkles, but behind the scenes, things start to shift. First, there's the product diversification. Avon wants volume, growth, reach. So you're encouraged to launch more accessible products, lower priced items, smaller silver goods, things you can sell to the same middle market customers who buy nail polish and eau de toilette. The idea is to democratize Tiffany, make it less intimidating, let more people in. You begin expanding your retail footprint. You test new store formats. You inch toward the idea of affordable luxury, a phrase that feels like both a promise and a contradiction. Some customers love it. Others aren't sure. The old guard definitely grumbles. To many longtime collectors, this all feels like sacrilege. Tiffany, sold at mall prices? Suddenly, the brand that once symbolized unattainable elegance is showing up in places it never dared enter before. It's not quite lipstick on a diamond, but it's close. And here's the tricky part. Sales actually go up. For a time, the mass market approach pulls in new customers. People who always dreamed of owning something from Tiffany now can. The blue box becomes a little less rare, a little more reachable. And that feels nice for a while. But then something strange starts to happen. You begin to notice a softening of the aura. That hush that used to fall over customers when they entered your showroom, it's fading. That gasp when someone received a Tiffany engagement ring, now it's followed by, "Oh yeah, I saw those in the outlet catalog." You haven't lost your sparkle, but you've started to feel common. And for a brand built on exclusivity, that's a problem. By the early 1980s, the cracks are showing. Critics write op-eds about the mollification of Tiffany. High-end clients complain about inconsistent service. Store associates report that the new crowd loves the packaging more than the products. There's even a slight identity crisis in your design studio. Do we make jewelry or merchandise? You're still profitable, but you're no longer sacred. Then comes the plot twist. In 1984, a group of investors led by William R. Cheney pulls off a management-led buyout and reclaims Tiffany from Avon. The price? Around $135 million. Not pocket change, but not an empire-breaking sum either. And just like that, you're independent again. And the first thing you do, recenter the brand. Cheney and his team aren't looking to milk you for mass market numbers. They want to restore Tiffany to its rightful place in the pantheon of high luxury. No more dipping into Avon's lipstick playbook. No more mid-tier identity crises. You cut back on cheap products. You double down on design. You bring in new creative voices and start developing jewelry collections that feel worthy of the Tiffany name again. You remind the world that elegance isn't about accessibility, it's about aspiration. And the strategy works. Slowly, the tides turn. Customers start returning, not just to buy, but to believe. Tiffany becomes a wedding staple again, a rite of passage. You're back in the pages of Vogue, back in films, back in the kind of whispered conversations where someone asks, "Is that from Tiffany?" And the answer carries weight. Business schools still study this turnaround. Some professors focus on the branding lessons, how over-democratizing luxury can backfire. Others emphasize the importance of brand integrity, how even the most beautiful name can suffer when it forgets what made it powerful. There's even a now legendary marketing case study titled "Tiffany, the Diamond in Avon's Crown, or Its Tarnished Tiara." No joke. It still sparks debates in MBA classrooms today. Because here's the truth. Avon didn't ruin Tiffany, but it did remind you what Tiffany really was. Not just a store, not just a brand, but a feeling. A promise in a blue box. A whisper of something better, wrapped in white satin ribbon. And as the 80s roll into the 90s, you're not chasing mass anymore. You're chasing meaning, which, ironically, is what customers were looking for all along. It's 1987, and for the first time in your long, glittering history, you're about to do something very unglamorous. You're going public. Yep. Tiffany & Co., keeper of engagement dreams, high society heirlooms, and Fifth Avenue myth, is ringing the bell on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Your shares are about to be traded, priced, charted, and critiqued like any other corporate commodity. To some, this move is a bit of a shock. You, on Wall Street, the same Tiffany that once refused to list prices in public? But for those paying attention, it's actually the logical next step. The 1984 management buyout from Avon left you with a solid brand, refreshed leadership, and loyal customers, but also a lot of debt. To grow, to expand internationally, to truly restore to the Tiffany luster, you need capital, not just a few deep-pocketed investors. You need a global vote of confidence. So you prepare the IPO, initial public offering. You craft the pitch. You run the numbers. And when the bell rings, TIFF becomes your new stock symbol. At 23 out of 50 per share, you're not just raising money, you're raising expectations. This moment kicks off a dramatic new phase in your story, one that stretches far beyond Fifth Avenue, past the Atlantic and Pacific, to a market you've been eyeing for decades, Japan. Now let's take a breath here, because Tiffany's entry into Japan is a case study in global brand alchemy. It didn't start with the IPO exactly. You'd been selling to Japanese clients for years, wealthy tourists, diplomats, and business elites who made their way to New York and walked out with a box that made their hearts beat faster. But now you're ready to bring Tiffany to Tokyo, and not just as a boutique tucked into a department store, as a statement. In 1986, just before going public, you open your first standalone store in Tokyo's Ginza district, the Rodeo Drive of Japan. But it's after the IPO that the real magic begins. With capital in hand, you expand quickly, you open more stores, launch Japanese language blue books, hire culturally savvy staff. You don't just enter the market, you become part of it. Japanese consumers fall head over heels. In post-war Japan, Western luxury has always carried a certain sparkle, but Tiffany? You hit a nerve. The aesthetic, minimalist, elegant, precise, feels almost zen in its restraint. And the blue box? Oh, the blue box. It becomes a cultural phenomenon. Young couples flock to Tiffany for engagement rings, influenced by Hollywood, but drawn in by something subtler. The purity of your image. In a society where form and symbolism matter deeply, that little blue box becomes a visual haiku. And your timing is impeccable. Japan in the late 80s is booming, the economy is soaring, the yen is strong, disposable income is flowing, and unlike American consumers who sometimes flinch at luxury price tags, Japanese buyers lean in. They see high cost as a symbol of enduring value, which is, conveniently, exactly what Tiffany stands for. You start dominating gift culture, weddings, anniversaries, business thank yous. There's a Tiffany piece for every occasion, and giving one signals not just wealth, but thoughtfulness. You're not bragging, you're appreciating. Even your brand storytelling translates beautifully. Your insistence on quality, your heritage of design, your connection to New York sophistication, it all carries a certain mythological weight in Japan. You're the jewelry equivalent of Hemingway crossed with Marie Kondo. Clean, beautiful, eternal. Sales skyrocket. By the early 1990s, Japan accounts for over 20% of your total revenue. In fact, for a brief period, your Tokyo flagship is pulling in more business than your Fifth Avenue store. Let that sink in. You've officially become a global brand. And here's the kicker. You did it without diluting your identity. You didn't pander, you didn't rebrand. You simply respected the culture, translated your materials, trained your staff with cross-cultural intelligence, and let the Tiffany essence do the heavy lifting. Business schools go wild. Marketing professors cite your Japan expansion as a near-perfect case of brand globalization. You didn't just export a product, you exported a feeling, and it worked. Of course, going public and going global brings new challenges. You now have shareholders to answer to, quarterly earnings reports to sweat over, a media landscape eager to pounce if you so much as sneeze on a stock price. And with growth comes imitation. Suddenly, everyone's launching a blue box moment. Competitors are refining their packaging, softening their branding, releasing minimalist ad campaigns that feel suspiciously familiar. But you keep your head down and your standards high. You invest in design. You hire architects to elevate your in-store experience. You bring in new creative directors to modernize the collections without abandoning tradition. You play the long game, And it works. By the end of the decade, Tiffany & Co. isn't just a legacy brand. It's a public company with global influence, a stock market success story, and an international household name. Your IPO didn't just raise funds, it raised ambition. And Japan, that was only the beginning. It's the early 2000s, and while the rest of the world is busy downloading ringtones and discovering reality TV, you've got something else on your mind. Diamonds. But not just any diamonds, conflict diamonds. And suddenly, your job as a jeweler isn't just about sparkle anymore. It's about ethics. The term conflict diamond, also known as blood diamond, has entered the global conversation with force. Reports flood the media, images of war-torn African countries, of rebel militias financed through untraceable stones, of innocent people paying the price for someone else's luxury. It's gut-wrenching, and people are starting to ask hard questions. Who mined this stone? Where did it come from? Who profited from its sale? Can a symbol of love be clean if its history is drenched in violence? For many brands, the response is to look the other way. Shrug, stall, wait for the PR cycle to pass. But you don't do that. You lean in. You know Tiffany's brand isn't just built on diamonds. It's built on trust. And trust isn't about what you sell. It's about what you stand for. So in 2002, years before most of your competitors even figure out how to spell provenance, you do something radical. You start publishing sourcing information for your diamonds. Yep. You begin telling customers exactly where their stones came from. Which mine, which region, which supplier. You map your supply chain with near obsessive transparency. It's not just a sales tool, it's a moral stance. You double down on traceability, requiring your suppliers to certify that their diamonds are conflict-free, not just by paper trail, but by independent audit. You even go one step further and commit to not buying diamonds from certain regions where governance is weak or human rights violations are rampant, regardless of what the legal paperwork says. Some critics call it performative, others call it pioneering. You call it non-negotiable. And then comes the big move. In 2003, the Kimberley Process Certification Scheme is formally implemented, a global framework designed to stop conflict diamonds from entering the legitimate diamond trade. You're not just compliant, you're instrumental. Tiffany & Co. works alongside NGOs, governments, and industry leaders to push the Kimberley process forward. You're not sitting on the sidelines. You're in the meeting rooms, you're at the conferences, you're part of the movement. And here's the irony. Your diamonds were never the problem. You've always sourced from reputable suppliers. You've always prioritized quality and integrity. But now, the world is watching, and you're determined to lead by example. Because here's what you understand that others miss. Luxury isn't just about what you give people, it's about what you don't take from others. In the years that follow, you launch full-page ads in major publications, calling for stricter industry standards. You publish open letters urging greater corporate accountability. You invite journalists and watchdogs to challenge your practices, not just applaud them. You make sourcing ethics part of your brand narrative. It becomes as much a part of the Tiffany experience as the Blue Box or the Fifth Avenue address. Customers respond. They don't just want beautiful rings anymore. They want beautiful truths. Couples start asking, is this stone ethically sourced? Right after, do you have it in rose gold? And you're ready. Your staff is trained. Your systems are transparent. Your conscience is clear. It's a turning point. A new kind of luxury customer is emerging. One who values not only design, but values. They want what you're selling, not just the diamond, but the peace of mind that comes with it. And it's not just diamonds. You extend your commitment to gold, platinum, and gemstones, investing in responsible mining practices and fair labor conditions. You push for sustainable sourcing across your supply chain. You begin reporting on environmental impact. You invest in carbon neutral operations. You don't always get it perfect, but you're willing to talk about your flaws, your progress, your goals. And that honesty, that willingness to grow publicly, that's what makes people trust you even more. Business analysts still study your early 2000s ethical pivot as a masterclass in brand stewardship. Not flashy, not gimmicky, just solid integrity backed by decades of reputation and forward-thinking leadership. Meanwhile, some competitors continue dragging their feet. Others launch eco collections as separate lines, optional, niche, performative. But you make ethical luxury your default. That shift doesn't just protect your brand, it future-proofs it. Because as the world evolves, as climate change, social justice, and transparency become non-negotiables for younger generations, you've already got the receipts. And this isn't a marketing stunt. This is your future. Jewelry that reflects love, but also conscience. Diamonds that dazzle, and also do no harm. So yes, in the age of digital gossip and corporate accountability, your sparkle still holds up. Not just because you shine bright, but because you've made sure no one had to suffer in order for you to glow. You're not just selling luxury, you're defining what luxury should mean in the 21st century. It's 1999. The world is buzzing with Y2K panic, chunky desktop computers, and the sudden realization that the internet is not a fad, it's a freight train. Everyone's trying to figure out what online means, and whether they should trust a floppy disk with their bank account. You're preparing to launch something that no luxury brand has ever dared to do at scale. A website. Yes, Tiffany & Co. The same company that's been wrapping elegance in tissue and satin ribbon since 1837 is about to click go live. And for a brand that's built on quiet in-person experiences, the hum of velvet under glass, and whispered proposals in marbled salons, this is a terrifying leap. Because here's the question everyone's asking in 1999. Can you sell diamonds on the internet? Your internal teams are skeptical. Your retail veterans are downright horrified. The Fifth Avenue staff practically clutches their pearls at the thought of someone buying a 3-carat emerald-cut ring while wearing sweatpants and eating cereal. But the world is changing fast. E-commerce is no longer optional. And unlike other heritage brands that scoff at online sales and cling to their catalogs, you do something uncharacteristically bold. You build a real digital store. Not a virtual brochure, not a hotline to call for prices. A full-fledged, interactive, scrollable, shoppable Tiffany.com. And you don't just dip a toe in, you dive. In November 1999, Tiffany becomes one of the first luxury brands in the world to offer fine jewelry for direct online purchase. Yes, you can click and buy a $20,000 necklace with your mouse. Delivered, insured, wrapped in that iconic blue box. At launch, it's simple. Clean interface, elegant product pages, the same tone and polish you've spent a century perfecting, now reimagined for the glowing square of a dial-up screen. And you know what? It works. Within just a few months, your e-commerce operation is generating over $1 million in sales. And that's in the era of AOL CDs and Netscape Navigator. Half your customers still print out directions just to find the grocery store. And yet, they're buying Tiffany online. Why? Because even across a screen, you've managed to do something extraordinary. You've kept the magic. Your site doesn't feel like a cold warehouse of product codes. It feels like walking through the Fifth Avenue store. In your pajamas, the soft color palette, the crisp photography, the copy that still feels personal and poised. You've translated the experience without diluting the brand. And more than that, you've opened the doors. Suddenly, someone in Des Moines or Missoula or Taipei can experience Tiffany in real time. They don't need a flight to New York. They don't need a doorman or a trust fund. They just need a modem and a little belief. That's democratizing without cheapening. You launch customer service support tailored for online buyers. You offer digital gift receipts. You reimagine packaging logistics to ensure that the unboxing experience at home feels just as special as one done in store. You even offer live chat decades before DM us becomes a thing. And here's what happens. Your customers evolve. They begin to see Tiffany not as a relic of the past, but as a brand that grows with them. You become the first ring for many, the first real necklace a college grad buys for herself, the first wedding band bought from a shared laptop in a one-bedroom apartment by two people budgeting for joy. And behind the scenes, the numbers back it all up. Tiffany.com becomes one of the most profitable arms of your business. It allows you to test new products, launch limited collections, and gather real-time data on what customers actually want. And no, you don't throw out your flagship stores. You don't replace human interaction. You just create a new kind of space, one where luxury and convenience coexist. It's a balancing act most brands still struggle with. But you walked the tightrope in 1999 and nailed the landing. Of course, there are still skeptics. Some critics argue that putting diamonds online removes the magic, that romance is lost between the mouse and the screen, that no algorithm can match the intimacy of an in-person proposal. They're not wrong. But what they miss is this. The customer has changed. People are falling in love over Zoom, sending goodnight texts instead of handwritten letters, streaming proposals from rooftops and Paris balconies over shaky Wi-Fi. Intimacy isn't gone, it's just different. And Tiffany adapts. You don't abandon tradition, you expand it. You make the blue box available in the cloud. And in doing so, you become one of the very few heritage brands to not only survive the digital age, but to define what elegance looks like in pixels and code. Design schools and retail analysts still cite Tiffany's early e-commerce move as a landmark in luxury brand evolution. Harvard Business Review writes case studies. Tech CEOs cite you in keynotes. Other fashion houses, slow to follow, start scrambling to catch up. You didn't just sell online, you made it feel special. And in the process, you proved something powerful. That luxury is not a place, or a price, or a suit and tie behind a counter. Luxury is a feeling, and if you can deliver that feeling through a screen with one click, one ribbon, and one unforgettable shade of blue, then yes, you can absolutely sell diamonds on the internet. It's 2017, and you've just unveiled a $500 paperclip. No, that's not a typo. It's real. It's sterling silver. It's sleek, minimalist, and yes, fully functional as a paperclip. Part of a new collection called Everyday Objects. It's nestled into a custom leather desk organizer, priced somewhere between investment and satire. And the internet? The internet loses its mind. Memes erupt, tweets fly, influencers gawk, late night hosts squeeze out punchlines. Your silver paperclip becomes a global punchline and a viral phenomenon, all in the span of 24 hours. But here's the twist. That's kind of the point. You're not just trolling, you're starting a conversation. Let's rewind. In 2017, the luxury industry is in flux. Streetwear is colliding with high fashion. Logos are making a comeback. Millennials and Gen Z are rewriting the rules of status. Less quiet wealth, more ironic flex. And Tiffany? Well, you've been feeling a little mature. Still iconic, still respected, but maybe a bit too polished, a bit too Fifth Avenue in a glass case. The kind of place people visit to propose, not to play, not to post, not to laugh. You need a jolt. So your creative team thinks, what if we take the ordinary and make it absurdly extraordinary? The result? Everyday objects, a line of impeccably crafted versions of mundane things, a 350 sterling silver bendy straw, a $1,000 sterling ruler, a $9,000 ball of silver yarn. Yes, yarn. It's either madness or genius. And honestly, it's probably both. Because while the internet laughs, design critics nod. Art directors raise eyebrows in approval. Fashion thinkers lean in. The craftsmanship is impeccable. The irony is delicious. And the design, surprisingly, elegant. What you're really doing is pulling off one of the oldest tricks in the Tiffany playbook: reframing luxury. You've always been a master of context. A diamond is just carbon, after all, until it's cut, set, and slipped into a blue box. Now you're saying, why can't a paperclip be beautiful? Why can't a drinking straw be art? You're blurring the lines between function and fantasy. You're poking at consumer culture while participating in it, letting your customers decide if the joke's on you or on them. And here's the kicker: people buy it. Collectors snatch up the silver tin cans and walnut rulers. Design fans fawn over the sterling garden tools. Celebrities show off their absurd purchases like badges of ironic wealth. It becomes a moment. And more than that, it becomes a signal that Tiffany is paying attention. You're not stuck in the past. You're not afraid to take risks. And more importantly, you understand that luxury doesn't always have to be serious. That's a radical idea in a world where elegance is often confused with solemnity. And yet, it fits. You've done whimsy before, back in the Art Nouveau days when dragonfly brooches and wisteria necklaces ruled the day. This is just the 21st century version, updated with hashtags and Design Week flair. Design critics still debate it. Some call it genius, comparing it to Marcel Duchamp's ready-mades, everyday objects reframed as art. Others say it's the death rattle of a brand that doesn't know what to do with itself. But the truth? This collection makes people talk. And that is invaluable, because in the Instagram age, attention is the currency of the realm. And you, Tiffany and Cody, just proved you can make a silver straw go viral without losing your sense of grace. You lean into the moment. You redesign your flagship's homepage with bold, editorial-style graphics. You feature the collection in high-end concept stores. You even launch cheeky ad campaigns that blend classic Tiffany elegance with a wink, like an engagement ring balanced on a bagel, or a diamond necklace styled with a hoodie. It's not a rejection of your roots, it's a reframing. A reminder that the brand that once dared to elevate an engagement ring into an art form can also turn a paper cup into a collector's item. And the customers, they get it. Millennials, often dismissed by legacy luxury houses as budget conscious and brand agnostic, start to see you in a new light. You're not just their parents' jeweler anymore. You're in on the joke. And even more importantly, you're still committed to quality. Because that 1D500 paperclip, it's not mass-produced junk. It's solid silver, handcrafted, finished with the same level of detail as a bracelet or a brooch. It's luxury because it's unnecessary, because it makes you smile, because it turns the mundane into magic. That's always been your secret weapon. So, yes, the world had a good laugh, and so did you. But when the laughter faded and the tweets scrolled away, what remained was something more powerful than virality: relevance. In a world where brands rise and fall with trends, where luxury is constantly being redefined, you manage to plant your flag in a new cultural territory without abandoning who you are. You're still Tiffany, still timeless, still classic. But now, you're also playful, provocative, and very, very good at keeping your name in the conversation, even when the object is a paperclip. It's 2021, and you've just done something that makes both fashion editors and suburban moms spit out their lattes in disbelief. You've rolled out a new campaign with a slogan that doesn't sound like you at all. In bold, black letters across crisp white backgrounds, it reads, Not your mother's Tiffany. And the internet absolutely erupts. Some people cheer, others rage. The moms, predictably, aren't thrilled. You've just told an entire generation of loyal customers, women who cherished their silver heart tag bracelets in high school, who got engaged with a 6-prong Tiffany setting, that they are, well, outdated. So let's talk about why you did it, and why it was actually brilliant. By the early 2020s, Tiffany & Comey is still iconic, but something's changed. Your name carries cultural weight. Your blue box is beloved. But to Gen Z, you've started to feel like a wedding museum. Too elegant, too perfect, too serious. This is a generation raised on TikTok irony and Y2K revival, where the cool kids thrift their jewelry and buy pearls ironically. They're not intimidated by high fashion. They mock it, remix it, and make it theirs. They want brands that are self-aware, subversive, even a little chaotic. So you do what few legacy brands are bold enough to do. You blow up your own image. Enter the Not Your Mother's Tiffany campaign. The visual tone is stark, raw, confident, no satin ribbons, no softly lit diamonds in a velvet box. Instead, models with nose rings and buzz cuts, gritty black and white photography, close-ups of chain-link necklaces that look like they were forged in a metal band's tour bus. It's not subtle, it's a challenge, and it works. Gen Z sits up, they screenshot, they repost, they argue in the comments, they make memes. Some absolutely love it, others not so much. One Twitter user writes, I am my mother and I like Tiffany. Another, so now I'm too old for my own jewelry? Cool. Controversy? Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing, you needed it. You needed to wake people up. You're not abandoning your past, you're reframing it. You're telling the world that Tiffany doesn't belong to one generation, that elegance can evolve, that tradition can have an edge, and that the same brand who sold tea sets in the 1800s can now sell gender-fluid pendants and chain chokers without breaking character. And behind the marketing, you're making real changes. You bring in Ruba Abunima as your first female creative director, and later you start hinting at a full-blown brand transformation under the new leadership of LVMH. Yes, the world's largest luxury conglomerate now owns you. And with Bernard Arnault's deep pockets and taste for disruption, Tiffany is about to get a complete facelift. We'll talk about that acquisition later. For now, let's stick with the rebrand. The new collection designs are bolder, edgier. You lean hard into hardware-inspired jewelry, turning industrial forms into wearable sculpture. You shoot ads in places that look more like a Berlin nightclub than a Manhattan bridal suite. And it's not just women's jewelry anymore. You release men's collections that include diamonds, pearls, and chunky silver pieces that feel street-ready, not country club polite. The gender lines? Gone. The old rules about who wears what and why? Also gone. For a brand once known for its quiet femininity, this is a radical pivot. And you don't stop at style. You also overhaul your social media. Gone are the overly filtered product shots. In come the short-form videos, influencer collaborations, and unfiltered BTS looks at artisans at work. Your Instagram goes from magazine ad to mood board. Your TikTok? Surprisingly clever. Sometimes funny, sometimes weird. Always watched. And here's the part brand managers love. It brings in a whole new audience. Younger buyers start adding Tiffany to their birthday wish lists again. Not just for engagement rings, but for charm necklaces, link bracelets, bold statement earrings. They wear it with Doc Martens, with crop tops, with sweatpants. Your jewelry becomes part of the aesthetic soup of modern fashion, layered with thrifted finds, hand-me-downs, and ironic Y2K throwbacks. Suddenly, Tiffany isn't a finish line. It's a starting point, a building block of identity, a little wink of, yes, I still believe in quality, but I don't need a ball gown to wear it. Still, not everyone's convinced. Plenty of your older clientele feel alienated. They write blog posts, Yelp reviews, angry tweets. I've been a customer for 25 years and now I don't recognize this brand. Some threaten to leave forever. Some actually do, and it's painful because loyalty like that isn't disposable. But here's what your leadership understands. Brands don't survive by preserving loyalty. They survive by creating it again, on new terms, with new people, in new languages. And yes, some of that language is Gen Z sarcasm. But underneath the irony, there's still love. Because those same sarcastic TikTokers, they tear up when they open their first blue box. They cry when they get proposed to with a Tiffany ring. They photograph their bracelet in golden hour lighting like it's the Holy Grail. Because Tiffany, for all its rebrands and rebellions, still means something. It's still romantic, still iconic, still the real thing. You just had to remind the world, and especially its younger generation, that you could be more than their mother's Tiffany. You could be theirs too. It's 2021, and the luxury world is holding its breath. Because what started as a warm courtship has turned into a very public, very expensive, very dramatic corporate standoff. At the center, you, Tiffany & Co. And the man knocking on your blue door isn't just any suitor, it's Bernard Arnault. Yes, that Bernard Arnault, the CEO of LVMH, the world's largest luxury conglomerate, and the kind of guy who collects iconic brands like other people collect watches. Louis Vuitton, Dior, Givenchy, Bulgari. He's built an empire where opulence is just Tuesday, and now he wants you. Well, technically, LVMH wants you. They want Tiffany's legacy, your American mystique, your blue box, your Fifth Avenue flagship, your reputation for timeless love. They want to plant a French flag in the middle of American luxury. And in 2019, the talks begin. LVMH offers a cool $16 billion. It's the largest luxury deal ever proposed. At first, everything seems lovely. There are press releases, smiling executives, champagne, a vibe of mutual admiration. But then, 2020 happens. Cue the global pandemic. Luxury sales plummet. Markets wobble, and suddenly that $16 billion price tag is looking a little steep. LVMH starts backing away, citing delays, legal concerns, and what they call a material adverse effect due to the COVID-19 crisis. Translation: we'd like a do-over, or a discount, or maybe just not. Tiffany, understandably, does not take this well. You take the matter to court. Suddenly, one of the most elegant brands in the world is suing the most powerful luxury group in the world. Headlines everywhere scream Battle of the Titans. Analysts squint at shareholder letters. Lawyers sharpen their pens. This isn't just corporate drama, this is luxury warfare. And it's fascinating because on the surface, it looks like two multi-billion-dollar giants squabbling over stock valuation. But under the surface, it's a battle over identity. Tiffany isn't just another jewel in the crown. You're an American institution. Your breakfast with Audrey, your engagements in Central Park, your old money's jeweler and new love symbol. And LVMH, they're old world chic, French polish, Continental control. So, who's courting whom? And who's in charge? The lawsuit drags into the fall of 2020, and it gets tense. There are whispers that the deal will die entirely, that Tiffany will remain independent, that this very public breakup will leave a brand scarred and stranded. But just when the breakup playlist is about to queue up, something shifts. In October 2020, a deal is finally reached. It's slightly revised. LVMH knocks down the price by about $430 million, bringing the total to around $15.8 billion. But still, the acquisition goes through. Tiffany officially becomes part of LVMH. And just like that, one of America's most beloved brands is now owned by Paris. Critics are divided. Some cry betrayal, others praise the strategic genius. Wall Street sees stability, fashion insiders see potential. Social media mostly makes jokes about Bernard Arnault now owning both the Hope Diamond and your ex-girlfriend's dream ring. But inside the brand, things are changing fast. LVMH moves swiftly. They install new leadership. Out goes longtime CEO Alessandro Bogliolo. In comes Anthony Ledru, a French executive with Louis Vuitton experience and a reputation for strategic firepower. And in creative, they go even bolder. LVMH brings in Ruba Abunimah, previously of Shiseido and Revlon, to head marketing, Tiffany's first female creative director. Her mission? Inject relevance, edge, and cultural momentum. There's a shift in tone. The Not Your Mother's Tiffany campaign launches. New collections lean towards streetwear aesthetics and gender-fluid design. You partner with pop icons, remix heritage styles, and roll out limited edition drops. But LVMH doesn't just want you to be cool. They want you to be global cool, which means a new vision for expansion in Asia, the Middle East, digital luxury, and experiential retail. And unlike the Avon era, this isn't about slapping your name on keychains. This is deliberate evolution. And here's the thing. It works. Sales climb. Press buzzes. Younger customers flock to your website and Instagram. You open stunning new stores, relaunch classic collections with fresh eyes, and play the old Tiffany card, but with new hands. At the same time, you protect the core. The Tiffany setting? Still iconic. The Blue Book collection? Still jaw-dropping. The Fifth Avenue flagship? Under renovation, but soon to be reborn as a temple of modern luxury. And LVMH, for all its ruthless precision, shows respect for your roots. They don't erase the past, they elevate it. Today, marketing professors debate this merger in class. Some say Tiffany was undervalued, others say it was saved just in time. A few point to this as the moment when American luxury finally admitted that French luxury won the long game. But you don't need to prove anything. You've endured 180 plus years of upheaval, ownership changes, cultural shifts, and economic meltdowns. And you're still here. Still desired. Still a name whispered in proposals, worn on red carpets, and stitched into the fabric of love stories worldwide. Now under LVMH, you're not just a brand. You're an empire within an empire. And the world is watching to see how you shine next. It's 2023, and after 4 years of anticipation, scaffolding, and whispers behind velvet ropes, you finally open the doors again. Welcome to the rebirth of your crown jewel, the landmark, Tiffany's newly reimagined flagship at 727 Fifth Avenue. And it's not just a renovation, it's a reinvention. Forget a fresh coat of paint or a few updated cases. What you've unveiled is a full-blown cathedral of contemporary luxury, a 10-story temple where heritage, high fashion, digital art, and fine dining exist in perfect harmony. It's part retail space, part art museum, part design lab, and all Tiffany. The stakes are enormous. This building is not just your store, it's your identity. It's the window through which the entire world sees what Tiffany and Company means today. So, what did you do? You tore it down and built it back bolder. Step inside, and the first thing that hits you is the scale. A soaring atrium drenched in natural light, polished stone, soft curves, walls that seem to float. It's like the store is breathing, like it knows it's special. And standing there, towering above visitors, is a 31-foot sculptural centerpiece made of glass and metal that catches the light like a gem in mid-air. It's abstract, ethereal, mesmerizing, just like your jewelry. Now look left, and there it is. Perhaps the most unexpected detail in this temple of elegance. A Basquiat. Not a print, not a nod. An actual, original Jean-Michel Basquiat painting. Equals pi, an electric blue canvas with geometric notations, a crown motif, and raw, poetic energy. It's positioned behind the jewelry cases, quietly monumental. A reminder that Tiffany doesn't just respect culture, it shapes it. Here's the twist. The painting isn't new. It was created in 1982, but remained largely unseen by the public until now. And when you placed it behind Beyoncé and Jay-Z in that 2021 campaign, yes, that campaign, it lit up the internet like a chandelier. Some loved it. Others questioned it. Art historians debated the ethics, but no one ignored it. And that's the point. This store is built on intention. Everything is designed to blend the old and the new. The salon that once sold brooches to Gilded Age heiresses now showcases sculptural pieces from contemporary designers. Vintage Tiffany sketches line the walls beside digital installations. The bridal salon gleams with icy grace, tucked away like a secret garden behind crystal doors. And on the top floor, a restaurant by Daniel Boulud. Yes, Tiffany has a cafe now. But not just any cafe. A Michelin-backed, reservation-only, white linen experience with gold-trimmed espresso cups and cocktails named after gem cuts. It's breakfast at Tiffany's reimagined for the iPhone generation, complete with caviar toast and filtered lighting. And the store doesn't just look different, it acts different. You've embraced technology in full force. Interactive mirrors, digital customization stations, augmented reality try-ons, QR codes next to high jewelry pieces that bring up video stories about the artisans. Even the packaging feels smarter, sleeker, like it's been waiting for this future all along. Every inch of the landmark whispers one thing: luxury can evolve, and the world listens. The reopening is covered in every fashion outlet from Vogue to Hypebeast. TikTok influencers live stream their visits. Gen Z calls it a dream mall, but make it couture. Boomers call it the new MoMA, but with diamonds. Architectural Digest calls it a spatial love letter to Tiffany's past, present, and possibility. And behind the curtain, LVMH is smiling, because this was the plan all along. The acquisition wasn't just about product, it was about experience. And here, in this shimmering glass cube of curated light, that experience now unfolds across 10 floors of perfectly controlled magic. But here's what makes it truly remarkable. Through all the modernity, through all the tech, through all the statement art and culinary flourishes, you didn't lose your soul. The Tiffany setting still sparkles in the bridal salon. The Blue Book collection still stops breath in the high jewelry gallery. You still offer hand engraving on baby cups and sterling rattles and christening spoons. Because while trends swirl around you like spring wind, you are the still point. You are Tiffany, and the landmark proves it. Critics may debate whether luxury needs to be this immersive. Academics will write essays about retail as museum and the commodification of cultural space. And marketing forums will argue about ROI. But anyone who walks through those doors, whether they spend $200 or $2 million, knows one thing. This is not just a store. It's a stage, a promise, a moment they'll remember. Because Tiffany didn't just update a building in 2023. You reasserted yourself as a tastemaker, as an innovator, as a storyteller, and perhaps most importantly, as the brand that's always known how to frame beauty in its purest, most unforgettable form. It's 2025. You're almost 2 centuries old, but you've never felt more alive, more plugged in, more at the center of a conversation that spans from couture salons to college dorm rooms to, believe it or not, machine learning labs. Because now you're juggling diamonds and data. Let's talk about what that means. You're in an era where personalization isn't just a bonus, it's the baseline. Today's luxury customer doesn't want a sales pitch. They want an experience curated for their style, their story, and yes, even their star sign if that's the mood. So you lean into the future with all the grace and elegance of a brand that's mastered the past. Enter AI-powered clienteling. It sounds techie, and it is, but what it really means is this. Tiffany knows you. Not in a creepy, we're watching your browser history kind of way, but in a, you came in last year for a sapphire necklace, so this new moonstone piece might just speak to your soul kind of way. You develop systems that learn customer preferences based on browsing behavior, purchase history, even the kind of words they use in live chats. You start offering personalized digital consultations, AI assisted but always human finished. And suddenly you're not just sending marketing emails, you're sending love letters, tastefully, with the Tiffany blue ribbon still tied just right. And while you're diving headfirst into digital, there's another transformation unfolding beneath the display cases. Lab-grown diamonds, the elephant in the vault. For decades, lab-grown diamonds were the luxury industry's awkward cousin, scientifically impressive, but culturally rejected. The narrative was simple. Real diamonds are from the earth. Everything else is, well, not. But things change. Climate change accelerates. Consumers grow more conscious. Younger buyers, especially Gen Z, start asking the hard questions. Where did this come from? Who mined it? What's the carbon footprint? And you? You do something Tiffany has never done lightly. You adapt. By 2022, you'd already begun acknowledging the conversation. Quietly. Carefully. You maintained your focus on mined diamonds because, after all, rarity is part of your DNA. But by 2025, you're offering a limited collection of lab-grown diamond jewelry. Not as a gimmick, not as a compromise, as a choice. Crafted with the same design brilliance, held to the same rigorous quality standards, set in platinum, delivered in the same velvet-lined box, but born in a lab. Some purists flinch, others applaud, and again the academic debate begins. Some say it undermines your heritage, others argue it secures your future. A handful of business school professors even start assigning case studies titled Tiffany and the Two Truths of the Diamond. But you're not worried. Because what you've always sold isn't just diamonds, it's meaning. And in a world where meaning evolves, you evolve with it. Not instead of your past, but alongside it. You continue to offer the world's finest natural stones, sourced with transparency and care. But now you also give customers the opportunity to make a sustainable, ethical, budget-conscious choice without sacrificing beauty. That's the trick. You don't lower the standard. You raise the access point. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Your innovation doesn't stop with AI and lab diamonds. You start investing in blockchain for gem provenance. Every high-value piece now comes with a digital certificate of origin, immutable, trackable, embedded in a QR code, or accessible via NFC chip. a modern day heirloom that carries not just history, but proof. You don't just tell a story, you show your receipts. Meanwhile, your design language is evolving too. Yes, you still honor your heritage, the Tiffany setting, the legacy collections, the refined Art Deco silhouettes, but you're also creating pieces inspired by the now. Necklaces with modular links that can be rearranged, rings designed to stack in personalized combinations, materials that shimmer with subtle iridescence under phone flash, jewelry that looks as good on a 4K screen as it does in candlelight. Because this generation, they don't separate online from offline, and neither do you. Even your packaging gets smarter. You pilot a new initiative, recyclable, reusable Tiffany boxes, same blue, same bow, but designed to be refilled, reloved, repurposed. Maybe even 3D printed in select cases. Because yes, Tiffany now partners with sustainable material labs. Your message? Forever can also mean forward. The press eats it up. Headlines like, Tiffany embraces tech without losing its soul start popping up. Influencers unbox your new lab-grown collection with captions like, ethical, but make it Tiffany. Gen Alpha asks their parents for a smart ring from Tiffany for graduation. And through it all, you're calm. Because here's what no one can replicate. Your story. You've been here since 1837. You've crossed centuries, continents, and cultural revolutions. You've made swords and sculptures, tiaras and tools, rings for war heroes and bracelets for prom queens. You are heritage in motion. You are the rarest thing in retail, a legacy that listens. And in 2025, as you balance AI tools and artisan hands, digital diamonds and century-old cuts, smart packaging and timeless presentation, you're not clinging to relevance, you're defining it. This isn't the end of a story. It's another facet, another reflection of that same original vision. To take the ordinary, silver, stone, steel, and turn it into something extraordinary, something forever. So now, you've walked through nearly 200 years of light and legacy. From a modest little shop on Broadway to a digital jewel glimmering across time zones and touchscreens, you've handcrafted swords for soldiers, set diamonds into six-prong revolutions, survived wars, recessions, reinventions, and still found time to throw a party with Basquiat on the wall and Beyoncé in the front row. You've changed over and over, but with grace, and you've never stopped being Tiffany. Maybe that's the real lesson here, that luxury isn't fixed in time. It's not trapped in gold frames or frozen in velvet-lined boxes. It breathes, it listens, it learns how to shimmer in new light. And you've been there through it all, ringing bells on the NYSE, sketching new cuts, printing blue books, crafting stories one clasp, one gemstone, one tiny box at a time. You've earned your place not just in fashion, but in memory. So now, take a breath, turn down the lights, let the glow of polished silver and old stories lull you gently into dreams. Maybe tomorrow you'll wear your grandmother's Tiffany locket. Maybe someday you'll give someone their first blue box. Or maybe you'll just wake up feeling quietly powerful, because history lives in you now.
you.